Agenda item on law of the sea. ALCO's Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Feng, will introduce the subject. Mr. Feng, you have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Madam President, honorable ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce the Secretariat's report on the agenda item, the Law of the Sea, contained in Secretariat document number ALCO/52/headquarters, New Delhi, in brackets, /2013/SD/S2. The report contains inter alia information relating to the status of the UNCLOS and its implementing agreements, 30th and 31st sessions of the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, 18th session of the International Seabed Authority, 22nd meeting of the states parties to the UNCLOS, 13th meeting of the UN Open-Ended Informal Consultative Process on Oceans and Law of the Sea, and the consideration of the oceans and the law of the sea issues at the 67th session of the UN General Assembly. Madam President, the UNCLOS, popularly known as the Constitution of the Oceans, is quickly moving towards universal participation. Currently, 165 states are parties to the UNCLOS, including 40 states who are members of ALCO. It could be hoped that all the member states of ALCO would soon accede to the convention and also to the two implementing agreements. Madam President, ALCO has had a long and a storied history with the law of the sea in general and the UNCLOS in particular. The agenda item, the law of the sea, was first taken up for consideration at the initiative of the government of Indonesia in 1970. Since then, this agenda item has been considered as one of the priority items at the successive annual sessions of ALCO. In the negotiations of the UNCLOS, particularly the areas relating to the exclusive economic zone, archipelago states, and rights of landlocked states, the ALCO's contribution is well known at the international level. The year 2012 marked the 30th anniversary of the coming into force of the UNCLOS, and in commemoration of this historic event, the ALCO organized a legal experts meeting on the 5th of March 2013 in collaboration with the Legal and Treaties Division of the Ministry of External Affairs of India. Notable legal luminaries such as Mr. B. Singh, the first Secretary General of ALCO, Sri Painak Ranjan Chakravarti, Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, Dr. Neeru Chadha, that is, Madam President, yourself, and Mr. Stephen Matthews, Assistant Secretary General for Legal Affairs, United Nations, were present at this event. The topics under discussion at the legal experts meeting included dispute settlement under UNCLOS, current challenges in the preservation and protection of marine environment, issues relating to piracy and maritime security, and ALCO's contribution to UNCLOS. Stellar presentations were given by renowned scholars of the law of the sea, such as His Excellency Mr. Gudmundur Eriksson, Dr. Moritaka Hayashi, Mr. Rajiv Walia of the UNODC, Dr. Sunil Agarwal, Mr. Dato Zulkifli Adnan, Dr. Luther Rangraji, Professor Yogesh Tyagi, Mr. H.P. Rajan, and Ms. Tycee Thomas. Madam President, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea must be recognized for delivering its landmark judgment regarding the dispute concerning the delimitation of the maritime boundary between Bangladesh and Myanmar in the Bay of Bengal on the 14th of March 2012. This was the first maritime delimitation case heard by the ITLOS, and it signifies ITLOS's growing recognition as a convenient, competent, and expeditious forum for maritime disputes of this magnitude. This judgment is the first to be handed down by the Hamburg Tribunal in a maritime delimitation case. It deals with novel questions of the law of the sea, including the delimitation of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles, and the relationship between such delimitation and the work of the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. It is likely to be of major significance for many states with extended continental shelves. This judgment came in the wake of the advisory opinion delivered on the 1st of February 2011 in respect of responsibilities and obligations of states, sponsoring persons, and entities with respect to activities in the area the previous year. The year 2012 was also a busy year for ITLOS, which held hearings in several other cases as well, a byproduct of the forum's growing visibility and viability in the international arena. Madam President, the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf held its 30th session at the UN headquarters from the 30th of July to the 24th of August 2012, and its 31st session from the 21st of January to the 8th of March 2013. The Commission decided inter alia to establish 4 new subcommissions to examine submissions made by Argentina, Ghana, Iceland, and Denmark. These subcommissions join the existing 2, which are examining submissions made by Uruguay and the Cook Islands. Presentations regarding their submissions were also made by Iceland and Denmark. The increasing workload of the CLCS continues to be an issue due to the large number of submissions made to it by various coastal states. Currently, there are around 20 pending submissions from Asian and African states before the CLCS. There appears to be a necessity to alleviate this load somewhat and streamline the efforts of the CLCS. Madam President, the International Seabed Authority held its 18th session in Kingston, Jamaica from the 9th to the 27th of July 2012. At this session, Mr. Niai O'Dianton was elected for his second term as Secretary General of the ISBA. The ISBA also adopted regulations on prospecting and exploration for cobalt-rich ferromanganese crusts in the area. These regulations, which took effect immediately, are the third set of regulations created by the ISBA to control mining of the seabed and the subsoil in an area beyond national jurisdiction. ALCO member states may consider renewing their efforts to control and restrict damage from seabed mining in keeping with these new regulations. Madam President, among the many critical issues that have faced the UNCLOS over the past several years are pirate attacks and armed robbery against ships, which have raised a serious threat to international commerce and maritime navigation. The problem with curbing this menace is not necessarily a matter of a lack of sufficient laws, but often a lack of domestic law enforcement capability and a lack of institutional capacity to bring pirates to justice. In order to counter the menace of piracy, ALCO member states should, among other measures, consider enacting adequate national legislation to criminalize acts of piracy and armed robbery at sea and associated crimes, as well as modern procedural laws, which are indispensable for the effective suppression of piracy. Madam President, for the sustainable development of oceans, it is important to take necessary measures to protect the marine environment, halt pollution at sea, and preserve all marine species. Globalization has shrunk the world, including its oceans, and as resources available in the oceans remain scarce, it is vital that the international community work together to manage these resources. A growing area of concern is the conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity within the area. Marine protected areas are seen to be an important marine ecosystem management tool for securing protection from threats to marine biological diversity. A universally accepted legal framework has yet to be established, and ALCO member states may consider taking the lead in formulating a legal framework to conserve and maintain sustainable use of marine biodiversity in these areas. These are some of the issues on which the member states may deliberate during the course of this meeting today. I thank you all. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Fang, for introducing the subject. I'll give the floor now to Indonesia for this statement. Indonesia, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. Madam President, Madam Vice President, His Excellency Secretary General of ALCO, Excellencies, distinguished guests, distinguished delegates. In the current joyous occasion, Indonesia would like to thank ALCO Secretariat for preparing documents for the 52nd annual session of the ALCO. We believe that the report is important for the further study and discussion in the issue of the law of the sea. On the issue of the law of the sea, Indonesia continues to emphasize the importance of the implementation of UNCLOS 1982 as a major international law governing maritime issues, which have been accepted by 166 countries, and Indonesia would welcome Swaziland, Timor-Leste, and Nigeria as the latest state parties to the UNCLOS 1982. Madam President, distinguished delegates, as an archipelagic state, Indonesia is of the view that the unique characteristic of archipelagic states such as its strategic geographical position. Such position gives Indonesia benefits in the management of natural resources and also the importance of having similar perception concerning threats and challenges as practical aspect to enhance cooperation between states. Therefore, Indonesia has and will always actively participate in the discussion of the issue related to the law of the sea. Currently, in dealing with the law of the sea, Indonesia has participated in the several conferences and meetings related to the issue. This year, Indonesia has participated in the 23rd session meeting of state parties to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the 90th session of International Seabed Authority, and the 14th session of the United Nations Open-Ended Informal Consultative Process on Ocean and the Law of the Sea. Madam President, in the 23rd session meeting of state parties to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, Indonesia is of the view that International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea as an important juridical body to solve the legal dispute arising from the application and the interpretation of UNCLOS. Meanwhile, Indonesia emphasizes the role of IISA on the environmental protection of the sea from the negative impact caused by exploration and exploitation in the region. Related to the issue of the workload of the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, Indonesia has expressed its support to the steps taken to ensure the Commission could function effectively with the necessary support and facilities. On the meeting of states parties of UNCLOS, Indonesia has also received the request from endorsement from our countries who will be re-elected in the election of the member